And here we go. Is this the correct one? Yes. Writing plan. No, it should be writing proposal. Writing proposal. Good. Let's start. Hello, everybody. This is the wrong slide. Sorry. We need KB81. And here we go. Okay, hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about writing your research proposal. So this is a research and innovation 2. This is the planning. You're already familiar with this list. And right now we are over here. So today you are going to present a literature review that you have all done last week, and you are going to start planning your research. In order to plan your research, you are going to need the information that we are going to talk about today. At the end of this week, so Sunday midnight this week, you are going to submit the document that has the literature review and the research proposal. And the template for that document is on Blackboard. I have updated it yesterday, added more information. If you're using the old template, it's okay. The new template only has additional information, advice about how to write, what to write in each section, and how to, for example, number the references. So if you're using the old template, it's fine. Still download the new template and use that from now on. Copy paste what you already have into the new template. Okay, and then from next week, you are going to start conducting the research, and from week 6, you will start submitting drafts to us, me and Anna, and then Anna will start providing you feedback in order to improve the quality of your article. So the first week, you'll submit the introduction methodology, because you already have this done, because by now you're already doing the experiment or whatever you're doing. And after you get the feedback, you will improve on that and start and give them a complete, so improved introduction methodology, and the rest of the article, you will get another round of feedback from Anna. And then after that, you will submit your final article. You need to use these in order to improve the quality of the article, because last period we only did one final article submission, so there was no feedback loops, and the quality of the articles were really terrible. So these are really your chances to actually have a good grade. The information that we are going to talk about today are basically a summary of 3 lectures that have been given for the course of the second year, so Research Trends in Technology. And the book that we use for that course is a book called Dit is Onderzoek. Is anybody here not familiar with it? You have it? Can you because I don't want to run back to my room.
Oh, it's.
Well, that doesn't look like it.
I can get it off if you want. It's the book.
Yeah, I believe I want to show it to the others.
Yeah.
So the book is called Dit is Onderzoek, and it is all these terms are defined in that book. If you don't have the book, you can see the lectures. The lectures are in Dutch, so if you don't know Dutch, it will be more challenging for you to follow. The lectures are good because I watched the lectures multiple times and I actually use the lectures to prepare for this lecture. So watch these lectures to.
Is it from Barda?
Yes, Barda's book. Yes, exactly. Let's see. So if you want also the slides for these lectures, you can subscribe, enroll into the Blackboard page of this course, and there you can download the slides. But if you just go to these links directly on YouTube, everybody has access to them, and you can listen to the lectures. And the most important thing that I need you to focus on from now on is the terminology that you are going to use. And if you look into the Blackboard page, where is the internet browser? So let's see. If we go to Blackboard, so this is the Blackboard page, and we go to Research and Innovation 2. So if you go to Slides and Templates, and you go to Terms you should know, you will see this document. In this document, I have all the terms, the Dutch terms that are from Barda, and all the English alternatives that are equivalent to it. So you will need to use these terms in your research proposal. And if you write something, what's so funny?
No, it's just some of the English ones are still in Dutch.
Really?
So
Ah.
there's two of them.
Okay. Yeah, I need to improve it. It's not the final version because there was an. I'll. But so for example, if you talk about the research character and then you say that the research character is qualitative, then I know that you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so this will be a bad sign. So make sure that you follow, that you understand these terms and then you follow them exactly according to their definition. And today we're going to go over a few of these terms. So let's go. Let's see how we're doing on time. Good. So this part is very important because this part you will also use in your final article. So this part it will give you points also for now and also for your end article. So invest some effort into that. And a lot of the literature review is also building this part. So first we have the problemstelling. So it's the problem definition. Basically, the whole the current situation that we are working in and the things that are causing this. Forgot what I was trying to say. The idea is that, okay, so you start with the motivation. The motivation is the circumstance that triggers the research. So let's say that you are researching global warming, and then the question is, why are we researching global warming? what is the motivation behind it? The motivation is not that the temperature of the world is rising. The motivation is the thing that triggered the start of the research. So it can be that because last month there was a flood in Zoetermeer and 100 people died, and the government thinks that, okay, this is probably because of global warming. We need to do some research in global warming. So this is the motivation. The motivation, unlading, the trigger that triggered the start of this research. For you guys, the trigger is that you are following this course and you want to get you want to pass it, but you shouldn't write this in the document. So try to find some kind of trigger, or try to ask your client. You can ask me, what was the trigger to start this research, and then you can come up with something to write here. And then you have problem master plan, the problem background. Here you start to sketch to the reader, why is this topic so important? So where does this question come from? Why is this topic important? Why should I read this article? Why are we going to Mars? Is it really that important that we walk on the red planet? Who is interested in getting these results? So the problem owners. The problem owners are different than your population. For example, if you want to study the effect of breast milk against cow milk on so human breast, mother's milk, let's say, on babies compared to cow milk on babies, formula, then your population will be the babies. So how much the baby benefits from the mother's milk. But the baby is not the problem owner, because the babies are not interested in getting the results. They're not interested in anything. They're babies, you know, they're just little babies. The people who are problem owners are the parents of the babies. So they are the ones that are interested in the results. So all of these things you need to discuss when you are talking about, when you're giving the background about your problem. Suddenly everybody is trying to contact me. Okay, let's see. And then we have the goal of this of the research. The goal, the dual telling, is what you want to get out of this research. And if we go back again to the research, the example about global warming, and you are looking into the reasons for global warming, I don't want you to say that the goal is to know what are the reasons of global warming. No, that's not the goal. I don't care what the reasons are. Knowing the reasons will not improve my life. Improving my life will be reducing global warming, improving the climate so that we don't have floods anymore. This is the goal of that research. The outcome of the research will be the reasons of global warming, but the goal, what we want to achieve afterwards, is reducing the problems that we are having right now with the climate. So what do you want to achieve with this research? What's achieved for the problem owners, you know, the people who are actually interested in the outcome? What's the takeaway after reading the report? What will people do with this information? Okay, so I get the information, the reasons of global warming. What will people do with this information? So we've tried to think about the next step. So you see that we are looking at the unlading, so the motivation that triggered this research, and then we have the research itself, and then we're also looking at the dual telling, the goal, and the whole point is to try to bring you a little bit out of your focus. You know, you already are working on this thing and you are focused on it. I'm working on these privacy things. I'm working on the smart city. I'm working on this VR thing. The idea of these questions is to broaden your scope a little bit and start to make you think about how does this work fit in the bigger picture. Because also this is more relevant for people that are going to read your article people that are going to fund your research in the future, very few people are interested in this specific thing you're doing. In order to get them on board, you need to like show them what is the problem exactly, what are you trying to achieve, how is this going to help humanity. Okay, so these are all things you need to discuss in your document that you're writing by the end of this week. And then we have the research questions. The research questions have to be smart. And time after time, students have problems with making smart research questions. So let's go over it one more time. The research question should be specific. What do you want to accomplish? What this means is that if someone else reads the research question and do a study or like do some research, they should come up with similar answers to the answers you're going to come up with. From the research question, it should be really clear what you are trying to do. And no two people should have a different interpretation of one research question. It has to be really specific. It has to be measurable because we're going to do research about it. So if it's a question that's impossible to measure, then there is nothing to do here. It has to be measurable. How will we know what change has occurred? How much change is expected? Achievable, which means that it is feasible with the resources that you have. So if you ask me a question like, how will the behavior of children change over the next 6 months, but you only have 10 weeks to do the research, then it's not achievable with the resources that you have. So yeah, within the time frame, within the limitations, within the hardware that you have. So you have to take all that into consideration when making your research question. It has to be relevant, realistic, interesting for people, so that people will actually care about publishing your work. And if time specific, if your research is time specific, we already discussed it. So for example, your research is time specific. Privacy concerns about sharing data, this changes with time. So this is a time specific, but for example, you're researching dizziness in VR sets. This is something about perception and how the human physiology works. So I don't think the thing that make people dizzy now will be different than the things that will make people dizzy in 10, 20 years. So then we have this main question, and then based on the main question, we will make the sub-questions. So basically, the main question is really difficult. It's very complicated. Otherwise, other people would have already answered. So in order to simplify the main question, we divide it into smaller steps. And then when I take these smaller steps, when I'm finished with all the sub-questions, then I have the answer of the main question. The sub-question should also be specific and etc., etc. They should follow the SMART formula. And then these are the two important criteria for sub-questions. The sub-questions should be complete, meaning that if I answer all the sub-questions, I automatically answer the main question. The sub-questions cover every aspect of the main question. And they should be exclusive, meaning that there is no sub-question that the answer to is not relevant to the main question. All the sub-questions have to be relevant to the main question. And this is the tricky part. This is the part where most students fail. A lot of the students will have questions which are overlapping, or questions which are maybe going to be tackled during the research, but have nothing to do with the main question. Like, yeah, but this is interesting. Maybe it's also nice to know this. Like, yeah, okay, maybe it's nice to know this, but it has nothing to do with the main question. Therefore, it's not a good sub-question for the main question. Focus on the main question and only ask the questions that you need to answer in order to answer the main question. This is the whole point here. And it's very difficult. So spend a lot of time on this, think about it, ask other people, and try to revise your sub-questions. And for you guys, much more than KB80, this I will look very carefully at. And this, because these are the questions that you will use to plan your research. So if these questions are bad, then your whole research proposal will be bad. And if these research questions are bad, your grade will be really bad for the research proposal. Yeah. Automatically, because the rest of your document will also be bad. And then part of the research questions and sub-questions is the definition of terms. So, because there is a lot of terms that you will use in your question. You can't define everything in the question, but people who are not familiar with these terms don't know what exactly do you mean. So part of the research questions and sub-questions are the definitions of the terms. We call them stipulation and operationalization. Stipulation is basically defining every term that is not clear. So all unclear terms have to be described according to their meaning in the context of this research. Some words mean multiple things in different contexts, so you have to choose the definition that is important or like relevant for the context of your research. And operationalization, if something is really vague, then you need to define the way that you are going to measure it, right? So here is an example. We say, if the question is, are people wearing glasses more socially active? Then we are going to need to define, so the definition of the terms, people wearing glasses seems to be a straightforward thing, but then if you think about it a little bit, you start to say like, okay, so people who only wear reading glasses when they read something on paper, but then in normal life they don't wear glasses. They are considered as people wearing glasses or not wearing glasses? How about people wearing sunglasses on the beach? Are they people wearing glasses or they're not wearing glasses? Okay, so this needs to be defined. Yes.
Do you have your own definition to the stipulation, or do you need to use existing?
If it's something that is not already defined, then you can define it yourself. If it's and also if you just clearly define how you're going to use that term in your research, it's your own research, so you can also define it the way you want. But in order not to confuse the reader, of course, it will be nicer to follow definitions that are already accepted. Socially active, what on earth does socially active mean? I have no idea. Is it people who are protesting in demonstrations? Is it people who are like writing political posts on Facebook? I don't know, people commenting on YouTube videos. So socially active has to be also defined. And then how are you going to measure socially active? Like, are you going to measure how many posts they post on Facebook? Then you have like a quantitative approach. So these are things that are vague. You need to define how you're going to do it in your research. The nature of your research, there are three alternatives according to Barden. It can be explorative. So if there is a topic that we know nothing about, we will just enter the topic with an open mind and then we start to collect data. So for example, what kind of animals live in the Sahara in Australia? In Australia, the people live on the north coast and the south coast, and in the middle there's a huge Sahara, and then a lot of the animals there are not documented. What you can do is just take some 4x4s and go through the Sahara and then just have a big notepad and start documenting. Okay, I see this animal, he's jumping around, he has big legs and a long tail, and okay, so that's a kangaroo. Okay, so then this is one type of animal. And like this another type of animal, this is some type of insect, this is some type of butterfly. And then like you make this list and you are kind of collecting some qualitative data, describing the animals, and seeing what is available there. You can have some, this is one type, another type is descriptive. So, for example, so we already know some things about the topic, but we want to add more information. These are two examples. A phone operating system. Which phone operating system has more user satisfaction? And in order to measure that, what we will do is that we will have a questionnaire. It will have two questions. The first question is, what kind of phone do you have? The second question is, how satisfied are you with your phone? And then from these two questions, we can collect some numbers, and then we have some quantitative data to describe the answer to this question. What we can also try to figure out is why are people more happy with one operating system than the other? So then we will have questions like, we'll have to ask open questions because we don't know. We know that there are two operating systems. People are maybe happier with this one more than the other one. But why? We don't know. So we have qualitative data, but still they are descriptive of something that we already know. What you can also have is the same research that starts explorative and then goes descriptive. So, for example, you are looking into the animals that are in the Sahara in Australia, and then the second question that you want to answer is that, and which animals are more dominant or more popular than other animals? So first you document which animals are there, and then you kind of make lists of the types of animals, and then you take another excursion to Sahara, and then you start, counting how many kangaroos you see, how many zebras you see. I don't know what's in Australia. And then you will have more than one nature of research inside your research. So per sub-question, you can have a different kind of focus. So when you define this in your document, you can also define it per sub-question. And the final type would be the hypothesis testing. And for that, you just have a statement, and you will test whether it is true or not true. And for this, the data you're going to collect is always quantitative, meaning it's number-based. Research entities, I believe the Dutch term was onderzoekeenheden, and these are the entities involved in the research. We have the stakeholders. The stakeholders are all the entities which are involved with the problem definition. Can be people, animals, devices, medicines, etc., etc. We have the target group, which is everyone who is interested in the outcome. So, for example, again, if we're testing on babies, then the parents are the target group. If we're testing on students, then maybe the school is the target group. The groups that are being researched are the population. These entities that we will make conclusions about. So then these are the babies that we are going to study. Or maybe we're studying like the milk production of cows. Then the cows are our population. So when you look at population, you think automatically about people, but populations can be cows, can be even like chairs, can be anything. And then the sample is the part of the population that you're actually going to do your study on. So if you're doing a study on students, and then you're going to test on your colleagues here, then this is your sample of all the students that are in the household. Any question? I feel like I'm preaching. Yes.
With stakeholders, for example, how can a device, normally if I hear stakeholders, it's people who are interested in the outcome because there's something at stake. For example, shareholders, likewise. But how can devices or animals be stakeholders?
Yeah, so the stakeholders here, this includes all the other research entities. So here the terms definition are different than what we are used to. And you should follow these definitions in your
research. Are we not doing double descriptions then? For example, I'm already talking about our target group, product owner in the motivation and background. And now I once again talk about people who are interested in an outcome.
Yeah, so when you're talking about people who are interested in the outcome, you should always call them target group.
Yeah, but in my first part of the research proposal, I'm talking about the product owner and people who are interested in this discussion outcome. Yeah. And do I need to talk about the target group in another section, or is this just a part of definitions?
Okay. You already mentioned it in the introduction, and you are.
Yeah.
Why do I need to talk about it twice?
Yeah.
If you already talked about it in the introduction, then in this part, because in the template there is specific parts for target group, and then you can just mention it very shortly and refer back to the introduction.
Yeah.
So in just 1 or 2 lines should be enough. Okay. So the new template is on the blackboard, and in the template you will talk about the problem definition, motivation and background information. You will talk about the goal of your research, the main question and the sub-questions, and the definitions, which are part of the main question and the sub-questions. The nature of the research per sub-question, and whether the data you're going to collect are qualitative or quantitative. You are going to the experiment you're going to conduct, and you are going to explain the data gathering methods for each sub-question. What data are you gathering? So for each sub-question, what data gathering methods are you going to use? You need to use at least 2 data gathering methods, and one of them has to be quantitative, because then we're also going to do the statistical analysis on that. Okay, clear? Alrighty, then this part of the presentation is over. Oh no, wait. There is also going to be the literature survey. It's also part of the template. And again, 8 articles. You have to show that they are relevant. This is the most important thing. We're going to see today how relevant your articles are. And for each article, you will give the title, the goal. So what's the goal of the article? What methods they use, the conclusion. And most importantly, why is this article relevant for your work? And if the articles you read are not relevant for your work, then they are not good. It's not like just 8 random articles and you're done. You really have to pick articles that are relevant to your work. Half page or full page per article. Then there has to be a conclusion. So also a half page or full page about, in the end, in your own words, what is the conclusion? Now that you have read all these articles and you're an expert in the field, what is your idea about what has already been done and what is unknown that you can actually contribute to the scientific world, the scientific community, with the experiment or with the work that you are going to do in this minor? You do not need to formulate design strategy. This is okay, done. All right, so now it's time for the presentations. Again, make sure that you present very well and contribute to the discussion because it's 20% of the grade. And it's going to be 10 minutes. And the main focus should be the main achievements and findings that you have. And this week, we are going to be more strict about the grade. Okay, let's have a 5-minute break, and then we start with the presentation.
Want something to drink?
Yeah, water maybe. Thanks.
Warm?
No, just cold. Yes, thanks.